Um, my name is Mary Sayers. My pronouns are she, her, and I have the very great privilege of serving as the Chief Executive Officer of the National Disability Research Partnership. I'm joining you from Bunurong Lands here in Gippsland in Victoria, and I'd like to pay my respects to elders past and present on Bunurong land. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands in which you're all coming from today as well. As we gather to discuss important issues for people with disability, we acknowledge the strength, resilience, cultural wisdom of First Nations people with disability. We know we are on First Nations land and we respect the First Nations people from this land. On this land, we live, work, play, swim and dream together. First Nation people have lived here for many, many years and we share this land. We honour and respect all First Nations people and elders and ancestors, and their stories have so much to teach us. I also want to show my respect for all First Nations people joining us today and recognise the important contributions they make to our communities and our work together in the disability sector. And you're welcome to share the lands you're coming from across Australia in the chat. We'd love to hear where you're all coming from, and please do share if you're able to in the chat as well. I'd also like to begin by acknowledging the NDRP and our board, committee and staff. We're all, the majority of us, people with disability, and we work in partnership with people with disability in their organisations, researchers, advocates and government. Whilst we're funded by government, we're not part of government, and we thank them for their ongoing support. And our role is to support strong, inclusive research that can drive real change in policy and practice. So thank you again for joining us today. This is the fourth event in our Evidence to Action series called Doing Research Together, Supporting Inclusive and Collaborative Research Partnerships. These events are about making sure inclusive research isn't just done, but that it's also used. And today's session is about strengthening the role of advocacy organisation, including disabled persons organisations and disabled representative organisations, as collaborators, partners and leaders in research. Our discussions built on what we've learned from earlier events. That real change happens when people with disability, advocacy organisations, researchers and policymakers design research together from the start. We're launching a new report by Disability Advocacy Network Australia, or better known as DANA, called Co-Design Partnerships, a Mutual Exchange. And we'll hear insights from advocacy leaders and introduce practical tools that help researchers partner respectfully and collaboratively with disability advocacy organisations. Whether you come today with lived experience, policy expertise, research skills, or on the ground practice, we're so glad you're all here. In terms of our agenda, after Sherry, who's on screen at the moment, launches the DANA report, Co-Design Partnerships and Mutual Exchange in session 2, the event will shift to 4 short interactive sessions. These are designed to move from awareness through to reflection, through to practice, and then action, with speakers sharing lived experience, practical insights, and examples from their own work. Today, we know that we have more than 50% of you who are researchers, many of you who will also experience disability. And we're here, and we're so pleased you're here as well to learn more about what advocacy organisations do. We know that there's already much great work out there happening in disability-led research. And these sessions are about creating respectful dialogue across sectors, the research sector, the advocacy sector, people with disability. And the NDRP, we pride ourselves on the future and thinking about how these partnerships across these already wonderful sectors can be supported for great research about people with disability. And we come here without any judgment whatsoever. This is about bringing everyone together for the future. So after Sherry, we'll start with Advocacy 101, where national organisations will share who they are, who they represent, and what researchers may need to know before approaching them. We'll then have a 10-minute break and move into building respectful partnerships, busting some common myths about co-design through real stories of what respectful and inclusive collaboration looks like. From there, we'll move to resourcing partnerships to unpack and consider why sharing time, money, and information is essential for partnerships, and what happens if this is not considered. And after another 10-minute break, we'll have lessons from practice. Pairs of researchers and advocacy leaders will reflect on one partnership success and one challenge and what they would do differently next time. And we'll finish with you sharing an action you'd like to take and remind you about the resource pack that we've developed to support future work. And as I mentioned before, just a few reminders about access and safety. Unfortunately, the Auslan interpretation, as I mentioned earlier, is coming online a little bit later due to a mix-up with the daylight savings. And there's also chat for today's event. So you're welcome to share your thoughts in the chat. And you can see the chat there. And please keep in mind the chat will be monitored to ensure that everyone keeps in that safe and inclusive space. In addition, if you don't want to put your question or comment that you have in the chat where everyone can see, we do have the Zoom Q&A function as well, which will switched on through the event. If you prefer to remain anonymous or to share something that you don't really want everyone to know. And behind the scenes, Sue, Jess and Sally from the NDRP will be managing this event. And we also have Bethany available and you'll see Sue in the pink, but the rest of us with our blue backgrounds. Bethany is our Safety and Wellbeing Officer if you need any support, and you can direct message Bethany directly. Hopefully we'll run smoothly. Anyone who's been to our previous breakout, our previous evidence to action event where we've used breakouts, there's no breakouts today. We'll be in the main session together, and we really look forward to the next steps. So next slide, Sue. So just in terms of the research we support by and with people with disability, and that means partnerships are not nice to have, they're essential. And anyone who's applied for one of our research grants will know that we're really serious about these partnerships. When we talk about advocacy organisations, we mean disabled persons organisations, we mean disability representative organisations, and other groups that are led for people with disability. We know that these organisations are leaders, knowledge holders, and connectors. They also carry their community's voices. Through their work with their members, they know often what needs to change, and they know what doesn't work. They also hold deep knowledge about ethical research. You know, they know what harm can happen when research is not done ethically and what will deliver for their communities that's useful. But sometimes, unfortunately, they're brought in too late and expected to contribute without resources and are sometimes seen as optional advisors rather than essential partners. And when that happens, it's a missed opportunity. Research can miss the very perspectives it needs to make a difference. So that's why the NDRP commissioned the report you'll hear about today from Disability Advocacy Network Australia. We needed to understand better and directly hear from advocacy organisations themselves what makes research partnerships work and what gets in the way. And over the past few years, we've heard a consistent pattern. When partnerships start together, not just end together, they work. And when they're built on shared purpose, trust, and clarity, and when accessibility is planned from the start, they work. And when research is disability led, shaped by lived experience, it's far more likely to lead to real change. And this is how we bring lived experience and system design. And this is what this event is all about. So you will have also seen, if I'll go to the next slide, Sue, that we've also included a resource pack, which is trying to be a really practical resource that is about who's who, tips for first contact, tools and templates, access and inclusion budgeting, and frequently asked questions. We've created this new resource pack to support inclusive collaborative research partnerships. We've made it in a very simple Word format. You can use it as you like, you can copy, you can adapt, and we'd love to hear about it and to continue to improve it.